Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on my channel. Today's video is going to be a video, kind of a different type of video again. And it's going to be more or less just talking about the types of nests that exist between the US and Europe, I guess. Because I noticed that there's quite a few differences between the two countries as far as nests go. So I decided to write out an outline, kind of go around about what type of video this is going to be. There's a decent chance that I'm going to be wrong about a lot of the stuff. Why am I hat like that? But I might as well give it a try. It's going to be more of an opinionated video, I guess, on how I see the differences between the American ant keepers and the European ones. So the first thing that I noticed when it comes to European nest designs is that the fact that they seem to capitalize on a lot of stuff, such as the fact that American shops don't have a specific nest made for tubs and tubes, like, you know, like a tubs and tube setup type stuff. Meanwhile, in Europe, you guys actually have a setup meant directly for that type of, you know, nesting type. In fact, actually you have multiple. You got Antimatter's and his nest, you have Wakushi and his, like, weird, like, layering bit. Meanwhile, here in the US, all we do is we just buy, like, a $15 tub, if that, and then we just put in some test tubes, and that works almost as well, if not just as well, as the more expensive type nest that is found in Europe. Like, I genuinely do not know anyone here in the United States that actually has one of those types of nests. In fact, I don't think I know anybody who has that type of nest here in the US, or really any Wakushi nests. I know that some people in the US do in fact buy them, and many people buy European nests here in the US, but I don't really see them that often, at least within the community that I see, so it's something to note. But in Europe, you guys seem to make a whole lot more different types of nests and hybridization between those nests compared to here in the US. Even when it comes to pretty much any type, like the tubs and tubes nests. No one here in the US has ever made something like that. It's only ever been in Europe, really, where that type of nest has been made without it just being like a tub and that's it. Another thing that I noted is that a lot of Europeans and the European nest area is that there's a whole lot of acrylic. Now, here in the US, at least within the areas that I am in, acrylic isn't exactly seen as a very good nesting material due to the fact... My dogs are playing over there. Due to the fact that it isn't, like... I guess it isn't, like, natural, or that it doesn't hold hydration that well either. So it's not really exactly used here as a nesting material, if that makes any sense. Meanwhile, in Europe, you guys really like those acrylic nests to the point where you're hybridizing them, as I said in the previous thing, with a plaster nest in order for there to be better hydration. I can't talk today. Another thing that I noticed is that hydration design when it comes to American nests is a lot different compared to those in Europe. The ones in Europe are oftentimes, not really complicated, I guess, but oftentimes like a top-down view or like a side-in view. Meanwhile, here in the US, we have been using these like little like deli cup things. You've seen them inside Tar Heel ants' nests. I wish I brought one out here in order to show you. But it's like a little hydration like port that you then put like there's like a, what is it called? Like a tiny little pipe, and then you put that needle into the pipe and hydrate it that way, which I personally enjoy a lot, and I know a lot of Europeans enjoy as well. But in Europe, it seems to be a lot more of like a interesting ways of hydrating your nest as well, compared to like the average American way, if that makes any sense. Another difference I noticed is that a lot of Europeans, they don't really do that much DIY anymore. Back in the day, you know, Europeans were like the #1 for DIY stuff. We would get our DIY ideas from the Europeans. But now it seems like America has started to kind of take over that, you know, hold of making DIY nests in the more recent years, with us figuring out pretty much almost how to copy to an exact T Tar Heel ants' nests. Along with that, a lot of the Americans are starting to use 3D printing more in order to make their own nests, which I don't know why, because 3D printed nests oftentimes don't really do the best, but that's for a whole different story. But yeah, it's just something interesting that I ended up seeing on, you know, the webs, I guess, is that fact that the Americans seem to be taking over the DIY-ness of ant keeping that Europe seems to be kind of abandoning due to the fact that a lot of the companies there are making really good nests for really decent prices, which I think is pretty good. It probably doesn't help that a lot of European YouTubers have also kind of taken a step back from doing DIY stuff, so it doesn't really kind of incentivize that, while in the Yankee community doing DIY stuff is almost supported. Instead of, you know, going out and buying a nest, you could just go ahead and make it yourself for a lot cheaper. Another thing that is, of course, to note is that the United States doesn't really have that many nest companies anymore, or really ever had. You really only have a few major ones, the only major one really being nowadays Tar Heel Ants, and I guess Ants Canada. Besides for that, there's really no one else you can buy ants, or sorry, not ants, but nests from besides for maybe Arthropod Antics. Really, though, the two companies, Ants Canada and Tar Heel Ants, dominate the entire sphere of making nests. Thanks, phone, for going off. That was really nice. In recent years, I've seen one company come up called Bioscorpion. They tried to make in very nice looking wood nests, but ultimately it flopped because the pricing was absolutely insane. He said that it was more or less geared towards museums and quote-unquote professional people, but ultimately I don't think that. I think he was just mainly doing it to try to make a lot of extra money, calling it elite or whatever. But that's my own personal opinion. But either way, it did not end very well for the company, because the company then decided to shut its doors. Another thing that is worth to note is the fact that in Europe, the companies are a lot less competitive and more or less cooperative with each other. They talk to each other, they're oftentimes friends in fact, and they aren't exactly competing in the market. They're more or less helping each other do better in the market. It seems like in Europe, where the competition comes from is actually the buying and selling ants rather than the buying and selling nests, which I find is pretty interesting overall. How many times am I going to say pretty interesting this video? I have no idea, but obviously it's going to be quite a bit. Besides for that, that is it for this video. This was a very, very opinionated video, obviously. There's a chance that I'm wrong about a lot of this stuff. It's just what I personally have seen within the community. You may have seen different. I'm just reporting what I ended up seeing over these past few years. But besides for that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you liked it, dislike if you dislike it. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Oh yeah, and Discord server. Yeah, anyways, see you guys later.